Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this narration of the web series The Nature of Predators. If you're new to this series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 137. Memory transcription subject Governor Tava of the Vendel Republic. Date, Standardized Human Time, February 5th, 2137. While the United Nations had no intention of gunning down Isif, human snipers had their sights trained on him in case the Orcs tried anything. I imagine their watchful presence was for the purpose of putting the other delegates at ease, as much as they could be with the carnivorous predator mounting the stage. The chief hunter had to slouch to reach the microphone, even after raising it to its full height. Fearful expressions marred the prey's delicate faces, with reptilian eyes aimed in their direction. Everything that stirred our instincts about Terrans was there tenfold in the grey. This was the face that haunted our nightmares, the visage of the cruelest race in existence. A ginger and white doser leapt off Isif's head and curled up on the podium right in front of him. The delegation from Malu's refugees hissed for the rodent to be removed, trying to signal her to come to them. The tiny herbivore who had appeared alongside the Orcs showed no interest, yawning to express boredom. Many humans looked befuddled by her nonchalance, except for Zhao, who seemed to have encountered this doser before. Issa fled his nostrils, and a handful of delegates fainted. The Thefki ambassador was out like a light, while the Gojid minister Kiri swooned and folded like a lawn chair. Primates rushed over to try to rouse the downed diplomats, and I turned to survey Noah's expression. The Terran ambassador had taken on an exterior of alarm, as though something awful occurred to him. His unmasked eyes raced across the room, scanning every Vendel. The glint in his brown irises was of personal concern. I gasped with my own worry when the pieces clicked in my brain. Ambassador Williams was looking for Glim, and his pupils settled on a tail sticking out from under a dresser. "Oh no," Noah murmured. "Seeing an Oxford must be traumatic for Glim. They tortured and penned him for years. He watched them eat other Vendel in front of him daily." The human pushed his way through the crowd, who were preoccupied with the most threatening predator in the room. Glim was catatonic under the dresser, shaking like a leaf. He was gasping out the words, "Not cattle," before diverting to repeating the numbers on his brand. The Vendel rescue promptly vomited all over the floor, and Noah dragged him out to prevent him from choking. The astronaut shared a glance with me before rushing the former cattle Vendel from the room in his arms. The terror in Glim's eyes seemed to pierce right through me. How long had he been under there, since he'd heard us discussing whether to allow Isif to speak? Chief Hunter didn't notice or didn't comment on Glim's departure, as he cleared his throat with a thunderous growl. More of the delegates cowered, and unlike the human's apologetic demeanor, the Arxel seemed irked. He hissed something into the doser's ears. Worried gazes dotted the audience, as many assumed the grey was leaning in to chow into her soft throat. The rodent chittered back with an angry expression and made a dramatic gesture at the microphone. Isif sighed in surrender. "Hello. I do not expect to be granted access to your meetings or to join your association. I merely recognize the pragmatic concern that we have of a common enemy, and per the information provided by human intelligence services. Betterment and the Federation are two sides of the same knife, but I cannot offer any recompense for the ills you have suffered. No, it will end with me and my rebellion." "After everything you've done, you want us to work with you?" Lula, the Crow Cattle representative, challenged. "There are Crow Cattle here. Humans are soft, and their willingness to speak with you after what you did to Earth reflects the shortcomings of their empathy. You are the face of the extermination fleet, and I do not wish to speak or work with you." "Oh, so if you challenge your government after leading atrocities your whole life, you're fine. The Crow Cattle were used and thrown away without knowing we were omnivores. If I had that information when voting on Earth's fate, things would have been different, Grey." "If I had an alternative that did not get me killed, things would have been different. You had a choice, the ability to speak up without losing your head, and you didn't. Why?" "I don't owe you an explanation, you abominable monstrosity. I didn't vote for you to get your nasty eyes and the best pickings. Speak to us. We'd never fight alongside someone as unscrupulous and repulsive as you."
"Silence!" Secretary General Zhao bellowed. "I expect all guests and Sapien Coalition to behave with a decorum and rationality befitting professional diplomats. We aren't the Federation. We don't conduct debates and decide issues by lobbing insults, no matter our personal feelings."
If Noah were here rather than tending to Glim, he would have remarked on how difficult it had been to get a word in edgewise, with the constant interruptions during his other speech. The jeers rang in my ears as fresh as yesterday. Cooper had led the heckling, casting skepticism on the notion of arboreal eyes and suggesting humanity would turn on us. The Mazet was much more partial to Noah now than in those days, and hadn't hesitated to shield him from Koji. However, the large mammal had voted against allowing Isif to speak. I imagined he was having difficulty holding his tongue. Humanity should be appreciative of Kupo's attempts to be respectful of the forum, knowing that his true thoughts aligned with Nula's rhetoric. This debate could turn heated in a hurry, and I wasn't sure I trusted an Oxor to rein in his temper. The Terrans couldn't let this powder keg erupt into flames. Yurtle Ambassador Laulo curled his lip in defiance. "What is it you want, Oxor?"
"I seek to ally where beneficial to weaken our enemies, and I'm willing to attack specific targets in exchange for resources. Primarily, I seek a non-aggression pact. This war should not continue in the event we both triumph over our adversaries, yes? This death cycle must cease,"
Yisib retorted, flicking his tongue. So, you what? Stop raiding us and eating us?" Cerulean Prime Minister Braylon spoke up. "I don't see how we could ever believe that you wouldn't relax our guard just to launch a sneak attack."
"Do you not recognize that you have the most shrewd, resourceful, relentless species on your side? A humanity with actual time to perfect their craft. It will be suicide to go up against them in a few years. Look how rapidly they advance, they learn, they innovate. Similar to your feelings, I have no guarantee that you wouldn't see my kind extinct as soon as we try to isolate ourselves. I know you think we do not deserve to exist."
"You don't," Nula squeaked. "You're a bunch of bloodthirsty demons."
"The archives will show you that it was not always so cut and dry, bird. Now shut your beak. We cannot be friends, obviously, but I would hope many generations from now our descendants might be civilized with each other, that each of our factions may regard the other's lives with some minimal value. Would that not be better than this cursed existence?"
A docile diplomat leapt around, held aloft by a Mazek, trying to draw attention. "You're keeping one of ours as a hostage on this very floor. Who is she, and what have you done to her?"
"Ah! This is Valra. I rescued her from Maloo, and we are friends. She is silly and irritating, but does she look like a hostage to you? I feel like her hostage."
"I made Siffy come here," Valra squeaked, a prideful note coloring her voice. "Speaking at a summit was my idea. I told him he should try to make peace. Issa was never taught how to have empathy, but I'm certain he has a good heart."
"For the record, nobody made me do anything. I believe this is a delusional, fruitless endeavor, and the humans, much like all of you, don't want me to tarnish their reputation. I'm surprised I was allowed to speak to you." "Then why did you come here at all?"
Mazek President Kupo finally challenged.
"To test how much you could manipulate us. My reason for coming is somewhat to express my remorse over the role I played in your historical atrocities, because it is my sincere feeling. Also, practically, I cannot overcome the Dominion alone, so it is a strategic move to express the benefits that could be gained from a reluctant partnership. Zhao touts the idea of victory at all costs, yes? The cost is for us to tolerate each other."
"What if we don't want to tolerate you?"
"Then that is what the expected outcome. I merely will ask that the United Nations pass along back channels to communicate with me, if you desire. Each state might reach out, should they be interested in any non-aggression pacts. Thank you for granting me the audience. I will not take any more of your time."
Zhao gave a hand signal to the UN soldiers, who escorted the Oxor from the room without hesitation. I considered the speech I'd just heard. It was surprising that the carnivore had been able to iterate its full pitch and have his points listened to by prey. Issa's rhetoric mirrored my own ideas, recognizing that friendship was impossible and suggesting a pragmatic alliance instead. Risking open collaboration before election would be a political suicide. But perhaps the Venlaw Republic could accept his proposal off the Republic's radar. Issa's stunt proved that an Oxor can act civilized and communicate more than hungry threats. The question is if this demolished humanity's chances of securing support for the coalition. The majority of species had consented to the Oxal's brief admittance and supported the Terrans in the face of mockery. Secretary General Zhao seemed keen to get the proceedings back on track. Serious entreaties were needed at this moment rather than festivities. It was a shame, since I sensed how desperately the humans needed a happy moment to cling to. The guests had enjoyed the earlier messing about to a certain degree, judging by how they cheered Noah's face-planting stunt on. This was supposed to be an event calling for unity and celebrating the diplomatic tribulations Earth had overcome. As the UN's leader rushed to mingle with leery diplomats, I committed myself to winning over anyone who was put off by the Oxal's visit. A part of me was darkly curious if others were considering his offer, though the cynical side of me doubted it. After how the peaceful Terrans were mistreated time and again, I had little faith in the collective to pass fair judgment. I padded up to the Mazik President Cooper, bracing myself for damage control. I was impressed with how you handled yourself. The humans had a tough situation on their hands there. They need Isif militarily. You seem to understand that.
Ko owes our continued existence to humanity, though I vehemently disagree with treating that monster as a person. The UN still has my full support, Tava, Cooper replied. I see what you're trying to do, and it is not necessary. The Terrans simply can't believe they're predators of evil because they are not evil. It is understandable.
Not accurate, but roll with it. Perhaps there's another good predator race out there. Like Zhao said, sapiens choose what they are.
Sure, but blood-drinking killers are a lot more likely to choose evil by default. There is a disconnect between that practice and good motives. Even the humans would agree, and that's why they've bettered themselves through science. Their curiosity brings out the best in them.
Well, I'm glad you noticed how humans adore science and find meaning in their surroundings, I dodged. Sarah would be happy to hear that her field is appreciated. Please, excuse me. There was one name to check off the list of potential discontented parties. The slightly misguided Cooper's support hadn't been jeopardized by our unwanted guest. I noticed a dejected Nula slinking into Zhao's circle, with her indigo wings folded unhappily. The crow-cattle and her body turned away from the human. I wondered if she was afraid of him after he lobbied for the Oxal's introduction. Scurrying off from my private conversation with the Mazik, I joined the Secretary General's circle to offer support. The crow-cattle of all species have no right to challenge humanity. I was surprised and perhaps a little displeased that they were invited here, when Earth's gaping wounds are still fresh.
I am glad we are all right, Telenkin,
Zhao was saying to the Thafki diplomat who looked groggy after fainting.
I'd love to get back on track discussing a Thafki settlement under our protection. Some way you can restore your society without being targeted for attack as soon as you plant your roots.
Tilikin lumped his shoulders. Before you came along, there were 12,000 of us left, because of the Oxor. The Federation leaders made sure no one came to help us, but they didn't helm the raid. The Greys did the deed.
Had I known the Oxor was coming in advance, I would have never allowed it. Humanity understands how sensitive this is to you and your people. All I want is to help the Thafki flourish. You're important to us personally, enough that we never gave up on calling you our friends. Please, in turn, don't give up on humanity because of this one hiccup.
Everything with you ends with a representative dying, the Orcs are showing up, or a planet getting attacked.
You're right. We failed to keep people safe. This incursion was a lapse in our security, for which I am unspeakably sorry. We can do better. Humans aren't quitters. Your survival and your freedom are what we fight for, alongside our own.
Nula flapped her wings. Human, I know you may not want to speak to me.
No, please. I brought you here as an olive branch, not to hold earth over your head. I don't wish to condemn your species. While a few would agree with me, I think the fact that the crow cattle were the first victims changes our perspective. This is a fresh start for us, sir. Or it can be.
I just wanted to apologize for how I phrased my words to that filthy grey. Not that I regret that, I realized how many nasty eyes comment would have taken the wrong way by humans, who also have binocular eyes. Your eyes aren't nearly as bad as theirs.
Zhao coyly lifted his visor for a second. Are you sure about that?
The crow cattle froze, stuttering for a few moments. No, person-person videos don't do a whole look right at you justice. What I mean to say is that yours are, unfortunate, and theirs are nasty.
Is that so? The Secretary General issued a gruff laugh, fitting his visor back over his eyes. For what it's worth, many humans get anxiety from other people staring at them. It can be most unsettling, and I understand that your temper flared with this of, all is forgiven.
Nula shook her wings out, an attempt to flush the fear chemicals from her body. Telekin had looked away when Zen started to remove his visor. The Thafki didn't want to risk passing out twice in the span of an hour. I couldn't help but snicker at the frightful diplomats, along with the amused, human-accustomed Laulo. The Yodel was having a full belly laugh, and I shared his view on the situational absurdity. Gazing into a human's eyes was intoxicating, a way of peering through a window to their soul, especially when it was Noah's loving gaze. For anyone who knows the Terrans well, it's impossible to be scared of them. Seeing Laulo project that sentiment, I can tell the Yodel would be an easy vote to join the coalition. The positive outlook was that no parties outside the Dirtian Shield had walked out or became hostile to humans, which was a victory under the circumstances. The real test would be how many committed to join as a member state, when the vote took place in a few days. Outlining any diplomatic technicalities, discussing a vision of a post-war future, and confirming signatures to the various treaties from would-be entrants were next on the agenda. For some planets, FDL comms would need to patch them into legislator at home to vote on the document ratifications. I was hopeful that humanity would succeed in its mission to found a better league of planets. No species had fought harder with the unrequited kindness to gain friends amongst the stars. A binding agreement to cement that humans were not alone in their quest for peace would mean the world to me. End of chapter. There is a new legend on the horizon. Blueberry Cat has taken the T6 Patreon spot. Thank you very much, and I'm sure that I speak for everyone when I say that. I would just like to thank our T5 members, Lord Azrakel, Ambrose Cattell, Quantum Wednesday, Dragzoon W.R.E, Blueberry Cat, Cam Maxwell, Casper Arnholtz, Bushmaster 177, and Leslie 517. Thank you very much.